Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cliff Yates Show podcast. And we are live tonight, live on YouTube. And we're live only on YouTube, only one platform tonight for a good reason. I don't have the power. I don't have the bandwidth to go to more than one platform tonight. So it's going to be YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube live or even on the playback, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, join this community of progress. And tonight, hey, we're talking about a story tonight that I think is a pretty amazing story, right? President Donald J. Trump out on patrol in Washington. Is it happening? I wonder. Are they going to put it off to another day and not do it tonight? I mean, it was amazing enough for him to announce that. I had to double check. Even I was watching this other show, the Brian Craig show, and he was saying the fact that he announced it, there's a good chance this can't happen. You know, in all presidential appearances, whether they're traveling somewhere or they're going to make an appearance, you know, there's always a forward team that goes ahead and, check things out. You know, they do bomb sweeps and all these things. Oh, listen, hey, feel free to jump in. Hey, how's the river? The river is great. Let me put you up there and I want to put your comment. There you go. Hey, somebody's chiming in here. Leland, the river is calm tonight. I'm on the St. Lawrence River, everybody, as Leland has asked how the river was. And as I was saying before, I don't have much power because I'm in the middle of the St. Lawrence River on Elm Tree Island. You can go to Google Earth. You'll see exactly where I'm at. And so the Thousand Island region, same region where the dressing name came from. Hey, the river is great tonight. I'm looking outside. It's very calm. It calmed down to nothing. And so the river is great. Thanks for asking. And so also, chime in on YouTube if you have a comment or a question. I was a police officer for 35 years, 5 years in upstate New York, and then 30 for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So I can comment on this tonight. I can comment on Washington, D.C. crime and the number one ride-along in the world, Mr. Donald Trump. President Trump on a ride-along tonight in Washington, so he says. And I was saying earlier, right, everywhere he goes, there's always like a forward team that goes to make sure it's safe, especially with Donald Trump. So, I mean, it would have been great if he announced while he was on the street, Trump is in a tank, he's in the streets of D.C., He's in the police car. He's with the National Guard. That would have been great, but or to even announce later what he had done. But he's announcing, he was on a podcast earlier today. He says, yeah, tonight I'm going to be with the Washington, D.C. police and the National Guard. We're going to hit the streets. And I can just imagine what the Secret Service was doing and saying. Hey, Mr. President, we cannot have this. Chippewa Bay, you were there last week, motored around. Oh, you did. You didn't stop in. Always stop in around the island, everybody. Elm Tree Island, which was featured, by the way, in a movie called Devil's Island 2021 that was on Amazon, and now it's been moved over to YouTube. So go to YouTube and check out Devil's Island 2021, and you can watch the whole movie for free. You might even see me in it for a little bit. Back to Trump. Trump is President Trump. So for him to announce, yeah, I'm going to be with the PD tonight. I mean, come on. All these images have to come into your head. Yeah, Trump's going to be asking for handcuffs. Where's my gun? I need a gun. Give me some cuffs. Somebody's going down. I'm taking somebody down tonight. I got to be the first president to take somebody in a takedown. Or who knows, he might see Hillary in a restaurant. Hold on, guys. I see a suspect. Someone's going to jail tonight. Come on, there's comedy everywhere in this story. But it was just hard to believe that it was true, but it was true. And Trump had a little news conference, like something we would do on the police force, right? We'd have a little, briefing. If we had like a saturation patrol or we were going to hit a neighborhood heavy, because of high crime, we would have a briefing like he had, and then, and we would all eat before we went, 10-8 out in the field. And Trump announced that he was going to feed all the first responders, National Guard and the PD, And everybody going out there on the street tonight, either hamburgers from the White House or pizza from a great place. So he fed everybody prior to going on the street, if that's what happened. Now, Brian Craig seems to think that it would be that they would make him cancel or put it to another day, because for him to announce, I'm going to be on the streets of Washington on patrol, I mean, how dangerous is that? This is unprecedented. So he is going to be, I don't even want to say ride along. I think he's going to be active. He's going to want handcuffs and a gun. He's probably going to have the bulletproof vest. He's going to be, and I don't know how that's going to work. He's got Secret Service all around him, and Trump's going to want to run up there and get involved in the handcuffing of suspects. I'm just getting these visuals. President Trump on patrol. I've had a lot of ride-alongs in my day as a cop, but I can't imagine having the president. You know, I mean, I can't imagine. But there's got to be great video coming out of this if it happens, which I think it's going to happen because he had the briefing already, and they were showing him giving, Pam Bondi was out there, and it was a whole bunch of people, and he was just, hey, we're going on patrol. I just think that's an amazing. It is unprecedented. Brian Craig today earlier, and check out his show, the Brian Craig Show. It's fantastic. He's live every morning, 6 to 9, and he's totally MAGA. He's totally for President Trump. So if that's going to make you upset and you got TDS, don't go listen to Brian Craig. But Brian Craig seemed to think that it wouldn't happen just because. He announced it but Brian Craig also, that's what I was going to get at. Brian Craig brought up that it was the War of 1812. Maybe it was Adams. The last president to actually, as commander-in-chief, be leading troops in the field, I think was Adams. But he said War of 1812. The White House was surrounded. They were burning it down. The British had infiltrated. But now Trump, the commander-in-chief, he's leading the troops tonight on the streets of Washington, D.C. And we're going to go over some of the stories relating to that. But as I said before, so ride-alongs are kind of tricky. Sometimes you have dignitaries will ride along with you, or the higher-ups will usually pick and choose. If it's somebody of prominence or someone, they're kind of careful who they put the dignitary with, or the politician, or whoever's riding. They're kind of careful who they put them with. But there have been so many in the LA Sheriff's Department. There have been numerous things have happened with ride-alongs. People riding along, civilian ride-alongs. When you ride along with a police officer, you sign a waiver, basically, alleviating the department from lawsuits from you or your family, but that really doesn't alleviate your family from suing. But it's kind of just putting you on notice. Could be a life or death situation you're going to be in when you ride along with a police officer. Now, obviously, when you have a ride along, you try not to drive into something so chaotic and dangerous that you're putting your ride along in danger. However, with that being said, we had many instances in the LA Sheriff's Department where things happen. The ride-alongs had to get involved in getting on the radio or fighting with the officer or fighting to protect the officer. We've had in LA County, we've had officers shot and had the ride-along had to get on the radio. The officer's been shot. I don't know where I'm at. It just creates a hectic situation when can you imagine the 911 dispatchers are handling radio traffic, and a screaming voice comes on. I'm a ride-along, and the officer's been shot. He's down on the street. And that has happened. So you never know what's going to happen when you're riding along or you have a ride-along with you. So who knows what's going to happen tonight with President Trump on the street, on patrol in Washington, D.C. Live on YouTube, so if you have any comments or questions, put them out there. This is live tonight on YouTube, but also being recorded for all the podcast platforms. So if you're listening later on one of the podcast platforms, subscribe to the show, follow, leave a comment, 5 stars, of course. Why wouldn't you? And then go on over to YouTube and check out the show on YouTube. We are really gathering an army of loyal listeners, watchers who have subscribed to the show and have been sharing the show, and so appreciate it. And pick up a lot of new subscribers going live. I mean, I would like to watch everything live now. Because with the deep fakes, years ago, you didn't believe anything unless it was on video. And now we're coming to a time when someone said this online the other day. We're going to come to a time where you're not going to believe anything that's on video. And I've seen some of these fakes, and they are just so crazy realistic. And I know damn well that this is a fake. This is a fake video based on what this person has said. Not only because I saw the original broadcast, the original press, sometimes it's a press release, like with Rory McIlroy when he won the Masters. And I saw him later and how they dubbed his voice and had him saying these crazy things, which to me it was obvious that it's a fake. I think I could have picked it out anyways, but also I saw the original press conference. But so many people buy into it, they just think that it was real. And if you're a dummy, I can see where you would think that. But I shouldn't say that because, some of these videos, these fakes are so realistic. So I like to watch live. I want to make sure they're live broadcasts because you're watching it live and you never know what's going to happen. And I like to go live because it's a way of expanding the channel. People jump in and out when they're seeing live on YouTube and pick up some new followers, some new fans of the show going live. And not only that, when you're watching live, it's fun because you don't know what's going to happen, right? It's like watching a car crash. One thing is, it's if you're not watching live, then you can be pretty well assured that it's, been polished and edited. And, if something bad happened, it was taken out, edited. Well, we're live now, and so that can happen because you're going to see it as it occurs. But I also want to go to live tonight because this is a story. This is a story. President Trump saying, I'm going on patrol with the Washington D.C. police. That is just amazing. This is going to be historic. Come on, like him or hate him. President Trump saying, I'm going on patrol is crazy. Now, as working for the LA Sheriff's Department, 9,000 plus deputy sheriffs, sometimes at night you might see, hardly ever. The sergeants, we had a, field sergeant. I was a field sergeant on patrol. And then once in a while, the lieutenant would come out and go 10-8. Pretty frequently you would see a lieutenant. That wouldn't be that odd. But to see a captain out on patrol, that would be odd. Once in a while, I would see a division chief might come out, show himself out on patrol. But not too many people above a division chief. I never saw the undersheriff. Now, the sheriff had a driver who I knew very well. Pat Maxwell is his name. You probably won't watch this. But he was the sheriff's driver, and he was a great cop, very aggressive. And he's driving the sheriff, and they're on the freeway, LA County Sheriff. And then he sees a car in front of them on the freeway. They're in the sheriff's unmarked car. He's driving the sheriff to an event. And Pat Maxwell, now the sheriff's driver, he sees a wanted vehicle, something that was put on a broadcast. These suspects are wanted, blah, blah, blah. Here's the plate number. And Maxwell sees it, tells the sheriff, get your gun out. And they do a pullover on the freeway, unmarked car. They take these guys down. But that's something that Pat Maxwell would do. Ed, all right. How you doing, buddy? I got to put your comment up there. I'm doing great. Ed, thanks for checking in, checking out the show. And what do you think? Let me know what you think about Trump on the streets, on patrol, going 10-8. We got the president going out there to take some suspects down. I just think it's amazing. There's got to be great video, and it's going to be. I can't wait to watch later tonight to see if it actually happened. like I was saying, I was just very odd that he would announce this ahead of time. Yeah, I'm going to be going on the street tonight. And then he did show up at a briefing where he was providing pizza and hamburgers for all first responders that were going out on the street that night to fight crime. So I think it's going to happen. So let me know what you think in the comments, and we're going to watch later to find out. Now, Washington, D.C., I have 2 visits to Washington. One of them was 50 years ago. As a matter of fact, it's my 50-year class reunion. I don't know if I'm going to make it. It's a 3-hour drive from here, from the island. But maybe I will go. It's on the 23rd. And our class trip was in Washington, D.C., 1975. And maybe it was the year before we graduated, 74. And so, man, we went all around Washington. I don't know how I feel about Trump. He makes some good moves and some questionable moves. Oh, of course he does. He does some crazy stuff. You know, that's part of why I love him. That's part of why some people hate him. He says some crazy things. He says some bad things, and he says a lot of great things. That's one of the things you almost have to love, is the unfiltering of the comments, because it's from his thinking to the mouth and out. Not prearranged, it's not scripted, and it's kind of what we need to see in our politicians, to really know their heart. That's what you really need. You need them to go on like the president did, to go on Joe Rogan for 3+ hours, so that you can really see someone answering and having a real conversation that's not scripted with talking points built in. So, and that's what I like about President Trump. Of course, yeah, I know what you mean, but it's gonna be top of the news story. Oh man, I mean, I like the way you said it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I mean, it's got to be a top of the. Well, that's why we're going live tonight, to talk about President Trump going 10-8. And like I said, 50 years ago, I went to Washington, class trip. Now, you know, everybody was in the hallway of the hotel where we were staying, partying. I was in bed along with not too many other people had gone to bed. And man, 5 male blacks came onto the floor of the hotel with sawed-off shotguns, and they robbed everybody at gunpoint in our class, took all their jewelry, all their cash. And at the time, I mean, Washington was known for being very, very dangerous. Now, the second time that I went to Washington was in 2017. After Alba and my wife and I, watched the inauguration. We went there for the inauguration. And so the night before, we went out to dinner, and I don't know where we went. I think it was kind of a yuppie downtown area, but it was very clean. It seemed very safe to me, 2017. And all sorts of nice restaurants. We went to a Cuban restaurant, and we walked about 2.5 miles from our hotel. And there was quite a few people walking on the street. 8 o'clock at night, did not feel any danger. Now, on the news recently, after President Trump has deployed the National Guard, even Democrats were coming on saying, well, you know what, for the first time in 3 years, I feel like it's safe to go out to dinner tonight. And so a lot of people walking the streets in Washington after Trump put the National Guard out there and really empowered the police to do their job. And they took a lot of people to jail, took them off the streets. And that's what policing is supposed to do. People, the news will tell you, we're going towards a police state. The police want to take your freedom. The police want to take the criminals off the street so that we citizens can be more free. And what kind of freedom is it if you can't, at 11 o'clock at night, go out on the street and take a walk? Leland, I have a question from you. Where are you from originally? Originally, I am from Caledonia, New York, which is, do you know where Caledonia is? South of Rochester, about 20 miles. Livingston County. And I worked for the Livingston County Sheriff's Department for 5 years out of Geneseo, New York. And then 30 years in Los Angeles. And then we moved to the free state of Florida. You can tell we're live because I can flub up what I'm saying, and you get to see that. So I got another comment from Ed. I agree. He does the things some people won't do. That's why I like him as well. I mean, this is going to be great tonight. I can't wait. This is going to be a story for sure. And I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, 2017, Washington seemed. Oh, Leland, where are you from? Oh, I know where Bristol is. Of course, I have good friends not too far from Bristol. I have good friends in Batavia, New York, and Wayland, Warsaw, the Southern Tier. Bristol is there's a ski resort. Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that. I'm not a skier. I suck at skiing. But anyways, Washington seemed pretty good in 2017. Now, I might have just been naive and not known how dangerous it was. But according to what people are saying, Washington has gotten crazy dangerous. Let me go to a story. And all right, now, according to the Federalist, D.C.'s murder rate is more than 500% higher than the average state. D.C.'s murder rate ran 169% higher than Louisiana's, the deadliest state, and an astonishing 523% higher than of the average state. On a podcast last week, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, claimed, "I walk around all the time. I wake up early in the morning, and I feel perfectly safe." He dismissed Republican concerns about safety as full of it. But of course, Schumer doesn't go anywhere without his security detail. I'm sure he feels safe. He's got 12 guys with guns with him. In a similar vein, D.C. Council member Charles Allen, the federalization of law enforcement unnecessary, unwarranted, and the D.C. Council emphasized that crime rates are at the lowest rates we've seen in 30 years. Yet even MSNBC, who has now changed their name to MS Now, or as somebody said, MS Nobody's Watching. Yet even MSNBC host Joe Scarborough admitted that Democrats privately acknowledged the problem. On his show last week, he said Democrats had called him in recent days saying Washington should have gotten involved years ago. This place is dangerous. It's a mess. It's a wreck. Scarborough noted that some Democrats then rushed to Twitter to attack Republicans, denouncing federal interventions as the worst outrage of all time. Those who have visited a CVS or Walgreens in D.C. can see the reality. Everything sits behind plexiglass. That isn't surprising, since the city's property crime rate runs 49% higher than the most crime-ridden state. I got another message from Leland. It has we have a place in Chippewa Bay. That's how I found out about the amazing channel. Ah, that's awesome. Thank you, Leland. You rock. Thanks for checking in and watching. Now, let's go to another story from the Hill. This is on the Hill today. Yeah, this is about Trump tonight. Trump to patrol D.C. streets with police and military. President Trump said he plans to go out on patrol with the Metropolitan Police Department and National Guard troops around Washington, D.C. on Thursday night, tonight, amid a federal crackdown on crime. I'm going to be going out tonight, I think with the police and with the military, of course. So we're going to do a job, Trump told conservative radio host Todd Stamos. Oh, I forgot his last name, but he was on the show today. That's where he announced, I'm going on patrol tonight. A White House official told The Hill that details of what Trump would be doing were forthcoming. The Trump administration earlier in this month began surging federal law enforcement across parts of the district to crack down on what the White House said was an unacceptable level of crime. Now, supposedly statistics said that violent crime had declined. Hey, Dan, thanks for chiming in. Always good that... Dan Grazer says, dare him to get out of the beast. You know what? I think they're going to have to hold Trump back. I don't think Trump will jump out of that beast. Let's see what he does tonight. I get it. What's he going to do? Follow the police car in the beast? That would look kind of stupid, wouldn't it? I mean, he's got to get involved and get his hands dirty, right? I mean, I can't see the Secret Service allowing it, but I just can't see him following along without jumping out of the car at some point. At least he's got to be at some kind of scene because he knows that he's got to. Come on. The guy is shot in the head, and he fights Secret Service to jump back to his feet to yell, fight, 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 even though they want to keep him down. Well, they're not going to be able to keep him inside the beast either. I don't think, but let's see what happens. But that's a good comment. Let's see if I dare him to get out of the beast. I don't know. I think he would. We'll see tonight. There's going to be great video, I guess. All right, Politico. Trump visits law enforcement, National Guard, D.C. President Donald Trump celebrated his administration's takeover of Washington with a campaign-style speech Thursday to National Guard troops and federal officers dispatched to crack down on street crime in the nation's capital. It's probably what I saw today on video. Trump said he planned to extend the deployment to protect public safety and promised a city beautification program, because I think he can only, by his pen and say so, do this for 30 days, this National Guard deployment. We're going to stay here for a while, Trump told. About 300 people from federal law enforcement agencies and the National Guard gathered at the United States Park Police Facility. He called the crowd a healthy, attractive group and offered them pizza and burgers. That's what I was telling you about. He fed them all. Trump pledged to make Washington look better than it ever did, including by asking Congress for some money to redo pavement, medians, and parks. He said the goal was to make the capital city look like one of his golf clubs. Yeah. Now listen, I gotta speak to that, because his properties. Well, the property that I've been to the most is Trump Plaza in Las Vegas, because the wife and I had Hilton Grand Vacations property, and they had 300 rooms in Trump Plaza there in Las Vegas, which is just a hotel. One of the few. It's just off the Strip, and it's by the Fashion Show Mall, right there near Treasure Island, but it's off a block or so from the Strip. But the powers that be in Las Vegas have kept him from having a casino license. So he doesn't have a casino in his hotel, as most of you probably know. But it's a beautiful, the elevators scream, they're so fast. And the property is really beautiful, and the service. Now, we stay at other Hilton Grand Vacation properties around Las Vegas, and then they always, tell us as owners, you get 4 waters a day and this and that. And so I remember we were in at Trump's in Las Vegas. We were in our Hilton Grand Vacation staying there, but in Trump Plaza. And so we called down to the desk and I said, I know we only get 4 waters, but I wonder if we could have to. Oh, no, here at Trump, you get as much water as you want. There is no limit. How many bottles do you want? And we said, give us 8 bottles. We'll have them right up to your room. I mean, they were there within minutes. And the pool is wonderful. It's upstairs on, I forgot what floor, the 3rd floor, I think. And the elevators, like I said, scream. They're so fast, and the property is immaculate. and immaculate. And they have it, and they provide a shuttle service to anywhere on the Strip. And so it's a great place to stay, even though, and I think they thought they might squeeze him out of the property since they didn't give him a casino license. But no, that place is still going strong. Yeah, so that property is pretty amazing. I think we were at a Politico story when I started going into that. When I got sidetracked on that deal, let's go to D.C. mad. That's how D.C. Democrats are furious at Trump for stopping all the homicides. Damn it, Trump, you're stopping crime, and we cannot have this. You're going to fool around and make this District of Columbia safe. You're going to make it beautiful. You're going to make it the apple of everyone's eye here in Washington. We're going to be able to walk the streets late at night, go to dinner without fear. They showed a lady in the car the other day just screaming and celebrating. Look at me with my window down at the stoplight. No one's going to drag me out and rape me and rob me. She said she used other colorful language. I'm not going to use it here. I could and quote her, but I'm not going to do it. Democrats in Washington, D.C. are furious. Not because violent crime was spiraling out of control, but because President Donald Trump did something about it to stop it. A new Washington Post SCAR school poll found that roughly 8 in 10 D.C. residents, they opposed Trump's deployment of the National Guard. The poll was conducted between August 14th and August 17th and surveyed 604 D.C. residents. And the outrage was unsurprising, given that the propaganda press peddled the same narrative in recent days. A quartet of so-called journalists at CNN reported on August 14th that a crowd in D.C. was outraged by federal law enforcement presence. Some people do not like to see the uniform, I got to say. A lot of people don't like that. We had that. I worked at the substation for LA County Sheriff at Universal City Walk, right there, Universal Studios, because most of the studios themselves and 95% of the City Walk was in county area, so we had a substation right there at the City Walk. And so our job was mostly foot patrol on the City Walk. And so we were expected to be present on the City Walk, to be seen by tourists or residents, anybody that was coming to the theme park or coming from the theme park, going to restaurants and or bars later at night. And we kept crime to a minimum there on the City Walk by probably utilizing what Trump is using, several different agents. We had security, and they would be the first line of contact. Scott, we started utilizing a county. We started utilizing a county curfew ordinance to keep after 9 o'clock at night to keep the gang members and criminal youth or unaccompanied youth off the City Walk who were looking for trouble. So maybe it was 10 o'clock at night. So on the weekends we would have what we call the curfew sweep. So we would walk from one end to the other of the City Walk, and we'd have security in a line checking people's IDs that looked underage, and then they would offer them the ability to leave the area. Sometimes they would refuse. They would, start confronting security, and that's when they would call us up to take further action by finding out if they were indeed underage in violation of the curfew. And at that point, we would take them up to the substation and cite them, and have somebody come pick them up, actually. And we would, but, everybody knew in the county that had ever been there before. They know what we did and when we did it. So it kept gang members out of there. They didn't want to deal with that curfew sweep, and they did not want to be around with so much law enforcement. But sometimes even the residents or people just visiting the park didn't like all the uniform presence. They felt this is a police state. There's too many uniforms around here. But that's what the powers at Universal wanted us to be seen. They wanted to know. They wanted people to know that this was a family safe business, going to the Universal Park, and then also being on City Walk to be a patron of the restaurants and or bars or clubs. You were safe. And so we did a great job there. And being hands-on foot patrol, it just created, I can just see how in the old days of policing, like in New York City, where cops were on foot beats in neighborhoods, how effective and why that was so effective, because even on City Walk, just because we were there day after day on foot beats, we got to know all the restaurant owners. We got to know all the restaurant maitre d's, the restaurant servers, and so all the employees at the movie theaters and the coffee shops and the bars. And so they would, they talked to us. They called us by name. And so 99% of the time, of course, we would talk and relate to them on a hi, how you doing, how's it going today basis, and not in a confrontational. We were there to help. And so we were partners with all those people. When they needed help, we came to their aid. And when we had trouble, they came to our aid, either physically and or as a witness. They would come forward because they knew they had an emotional attachment to us. If one of us would get hurt, they just would take it personally. And so we had such a great working relationship. It just goes to community policing and how foot patrols can really make a difference in neighborhoods. And, the people that we worked with every day, they didn't see us as an occupying force, or they loved having the uniform around. They loved the fact that if something went down in their restaurant, they kind of knew where we were, or they knew that our response time to a restaurant or store or club at Universal was about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, if there was 2 or 3 things going on at the same time. So I think, this Washington D.C. thing is going to be an exemplar. It's going to be a model for what cities could do. And, it's something that, you do, like having the National Guard come and, buttress the force of the local police. Is just, and a show of force to criminals is going to get the streets nice and calm down. And then you don't need such a uniform presence. You start with that kind of a high level, and then you can back it down. It's going to work great. And it just is. And people are going to be happy about it. And some people are not going to publicly say they're happy about it, but they're going to be happy about it because they work in Washington. They have family in Washington, and no one wants their family mugged, shot, and killed. And, these D.C. politicians and lobbyists, they got to work in and around Washington, and they want it to be safe. Now, a lot of them have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, and they don't want anything Trump does to be successful. It's still about hourly wages. Okay. I like it. It's a trickle-down benefit. Even they were saying the other day that the restaurants were flooded because people felt safe to go out to the restaurants they hadn't gone to in a couple of years. And to the point, it's all about wages. If the restaurants are full because people are visiting Washington, because people feel they can go outside and visit restaurants are going to be able to hire more people, pay them better. And so it's going to be a trickle-up effect of finances. That's just the way it is. Now, where was that? We got a former D.C. cop. He spoke to somebody from the Federalists. Oh, wait, what's this story? Trump cleaning up D.C. in 1 week proves Democrats are destroying their cities by choice. For years, Washington, D.C. so-called leaders resigned themselves to the idea that crime was inevitable. Then came President Donald Trump, who saw a problem and took the novel approach of actually doing something about it, sending in the National Guard to restore order in the Capitol. The result, for the first time in ages, D.C. has gone 7 straight days without a single homicide. That is crazy, specifically with all the murders they have had there. According to Fox 45, the Capitol has also seen carjacking decrease by 83%, robberies by 46%, car thefts by 21%, and overall violent crime is down 22%. Sergeant Betsy Smith of the National Police Association said Washington, D.C.'s police department is suffering critical staffing shortages, which is an issue since more police generally equals less crime. Now, let's talk about what's going on with all police agencies. People are quitting, and they can't hire people. So people are retiring. The LA Sheriff's Department, through retirements and attrition, have always traditionally, over the past 30, 40 years, have lost about 500. Probably more now, but definitely a minimum of 500 people through attrition and or retirements, firings, or just people leaving. So every year, 500. And now they can't hire people because no one wants to be a cop anymore. Even though you got your great benefits, you get a pension, medical. It's just that people, do you want to sign up and be spit on and be disrespected and maybe shot and or killed because, and you know what, if you have a shooting or incident that's kind of sketchy, you're probably going to go to prison. I don't think I want that job. So no one is signing up for the job. Now in LA County is about 1,500 plus positions down. I can speak to this factually. Suicides across the nation with police and first responders are up. I can tell you LA County Sheriff, in the last 3 years, they've had 13 plus suicides. I have 2 stepsons who are on the Sheriff's Department. I spoke to one, and so for the past year or so, he gets 2 days off a month. 2 days. Forced overtime. There was a time when they really kept track of how much overtime you were working. There was a major cap on overtime, and now these deputies, and you've seen crazy stories of officers. They did one on an LAPD sergeant who made $300,000 in 1 year. This is the crazy amount of money they're happening because they're forced to work overtime because there are nobody to fill back those positions. All right. Hey, JJ, I'm going to put your JJ Rose Nose 777. Oh, yes, that's another factor. People being afraid to be a cop. Yeah, they don't want to do the job anymore. I mean, I can attest that that's going on. And there was another article, I might have it here, talking about how cops are quitting. They're not just retiring and fired, and they're actually leaving. They are quitting. Now, I wonder if it will help no tax on overtime. Yeah, that will help. A lot of people are going to like that. Now, I guess, I haven't looked into it, but there is a caveat to that. I was told, well, that, no tax on overtime, but only to a certain level. So once you get to a certain bracket, then there is tax on overtime. So one of my stepsons was telling me, well, you know, there's parameters with that. That's not an automatic. So once you've worked a certain amount of overtime, then it is taxed. So, and I don't know what the rule is on that, but I just, boy, the thing is, I mean, that just puts more money in the coppers' pockets, but it doesn't go to the fact that, and it was just the last deputy sheriff was killed driving home. And I know my stepson has crashed, falling asleep at the wheel, and most of the time he stays right at the jail. There's barracks where these deputies can stay. Otherwise, some of these deputies who work in these outlying jails, they have to drive 60, 70 miles to get to their homes. And so people they're overtired. They can't exercise. They can't eat properly. They're not getting enough sleep. And this all leads to poor decisions, people falling asleep, people making bad decisions on the job, people Yeah, being suicidal, getting sick a lot. This is no good. This is not good. But hey, good comments. If you haven't already, you're chiming in here live, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Share it with somebody you know should hear it from me, Cliff Yates, LA's comedy cop, right? Because I used to be a cop by day and a comedian by night. Some of you may not know that. Oh, here's the article about the former, as a former D.C. cop talks to the Federalist. As a former D.C. cop, I can tell you the federal takeover was the right move. As a former Washington, D.C. cop who has responded to countless homicides and other crime scenes during midnight shifts. That's what I used to work for many years. The midnight shift, I loved it. That's where the crime is. The current federal takeover of the capital city is a welcome sight. The story of D.C. is a depressing one, says this former Washington, D.C. cop, comprised of violent, crime-ridden neighborhoods marked by the highest degree of human despair, in which many people fear leaving the confines of their homes to avoid becoming a crime victim. Yet, these are also communities filled to the brim with countless good and hardworking people. They, like me, welcome the federal government's intervention via federal law enforcement officers and the D.C. National Guard. As a Metropolitan Police Department officer in the southeast and northeast quadrants of the district, I would regularly hear gunshots as I sped in a beat car toward the scene, sometimes even running toward them on foot. I have arrived at these scenes on the heels of a fresh kill, the victim on the ground, grotesquely contorted, calling to me in their final moments. I had the same thing happen to me. I sometimes arrived as the blood was spilling rapidly from a visible hole in the head, among other gruesome presentations. Well, I can attest to that myself, working South Central Los Angeles, and I can also attest to these cities. L.A., I really didn't. You don't notice it until you go somewhere else. In Los Angeles County and surrounding areas, you get used, the thousands and thousands of gangs in LA, you get used to graffiti everywhere. You just get used to it. It's on the walls. It's in the bathrooms of restaurants where you go, and graffiti is scratched in the side of the walls and the stalls. Some of these places put in stainless steel stalls so they can buff out the graffiti on a daily basis. But you get used to seeing graffiti everywhere in LA. No matter where you go, even in cities that clean it up real quick, you just get used to seeing it. Spray painting everywhere. And now that I'm in Florida, sometimes I just have to marvel and think, I haven't seen graffiti in 5 years. I have not seen, where I live on the Space Coast of Florida, I have not seen any graffiti. And I've gone through a lot of cities in Florida, and I never see any graffiti. And it's been 5 years. I haven't even been caught in traffic. In LA, I couldn't even see friends who lived about 20 miles away. I mean, I could see them, but you had to know, well, it could be 25 minutes and it could be 4 hours. Depends what happens. I could be in those 5 lanes of the freeway sitting there for hours, and there's just a good chance. It used to be 2 in the morning. At least you knew you could run around. Nope. You go in LA, it could be 2 a.m., 5 lanes going nowhere. Crazy traffic. I don't miss it. I love free Florida. It's amazing. Big raise, big money in the pocket when you go to Florida because no state income tax. It's awesome. Sorry, I had to celebrate that. Let's go to another story that I looked at today. Oh, now this is, I got to go with this. Now, because the big, beautiful bill came into play. Hold on. JJ Rose knows 777 has something to say. Hey, Castle, Knox Bay has a bunch of vandalism. Yeah, they do. Castle does have graffiti. People get in there late at, well, I don't know if they do it anymore, but I know in the 70s, you see, Castle was not cared for or protected. So you could actually just park your boat, or you could get there in the middle of the night And people would get in there and do crazy things and put graffiti on the walls and everything. So a lot of the graffiti and stuff you see on the walls of Bold Castle was from years ago. Also, J.J. Rose knows 777. Trump has to do something about this situation with police forces. Yeah, I know he wants to. He supports the police. So he's going to do it. Now look at this. With the big, beautiful bill and ICE getting all this money, they decided to give them all these brand new vehicles, and they want to, wrap them with all these beautiful ICE emblems on the side of the vehicles. ICE agents think their new cars might make them targets. You think? Jeez, of course they're going to be targets now. You can't do that. All right, Washington, D.C., everybody, for a long time, immigration enforcement agents have gone undercover to make arrests across the country. But in the coming months, the agency will roll out vehicles emblazoned with their logo. Not good, everybody. The new fleet will be dark blue with ICE plastered in giant yellow letters across the side, along with the phrase, "Defend the Homeland," in all caps, the New York Post reported. Now, granted, you should be able to ride around in a nice vehicle without being shot at or molested or attacked. But right now, that is not the case. That's why a lot of these guys are wearing masks. They're getting doxxed, and they're getting their identities being discovered and put out there publicly. These vehicles, there's a lot of trumped up, I wanted to say, drummed up hatred for ICE and what they're doing by the left, and it's created these crazies get turned on to do something to combat that. Yeah, ego, you're right. But having these vehicles marked like this, obviously we're going to need additional vehicles as we build out our workforce. So there'll be some marked vehicles from here in D.C. and around the country, an ICE insider told the Post. An ICE insider reportedly told the Post. Agents, however, are not thrilled, of course not, with the new supermarked vehicles, saying they're concerned that it will further expose them to dangerous threats. It will. The Post reported that ICE agents are dealing with 1,000% increase in assaults by illegal immigrants and anti-ICE activists. It's like having a bullseye, said one ICE source. This will only raise officer-involved incidents in the streets because people will target the vehicles, said another agency source. Plus, they'll target the people in the vehicles, adding that agitators have already successfully impeded operation. It began as a pun. Rose knows. I like it. JJ Rose knows 777. Just thanks for being part of the show. That's all I got to say. Thank you. Okay, someone from ICE further stated, they won't let us do our jobs, a source explained, of those who are getting in the way. So people are, actively interfering with ICE. So if they know, hey, that's an ICE vehicle, there's too much hostility right now. ICE is a law enforcement agency and, like all other law enforcement agencies, has a fleet of vehicles that includes those with ICE branding. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, ICE finally has the resources to grow its workforce to support ICE's mission, and that will include all types of additional vehicles. Okay, but you don't have to mark them. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said these specific vehicles will supplement the existing ICE fleet and support operations across the country. She added, well, maybe they'll get their act together and realize, nah, we ain't doing that. Oh, here's an article that I was talking about, the quitting. Cops quit. Michael Letts, why cop? This is from Law Enforcement Today. This is a great source for law enforcement news. Why cops are quitting and what to do about it. This has been going on for such a long time. Veteran law enforcement officer Michael Letts is sounding the alarm on a national crisis. America's police officers are leaving the profession in record numbers, and those who remain are more vulnerable and less supported than ever. Yes, it's a bad sign that there are dummies who can't even think through such simple stuff. Exactly, JJ Rose knows 777. Yeah, see, it's when you paint everybody as, the cops are racist, they're hunting minorities, and you've implanted this idea out there in the public sphere. A lot of people are buying into that. Then people not only not like the police, they think that they're actually on a mission to do that. And so why would I sign up to join an organization like that? Those of us in the know that's not the case. We know on a case-by-case basis there is corruption, police abuse. It needs to be rooted out whenever it occurs. And with the advent of these body cams, it's pretty easy to root it out and to get it out there. But, we need to paint the profession of heroes that they are. People have signed up to put their life on the line for complete strangers. And it's an honorable profession, and it's got great benefits. And listen, we can't paint this picture because it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're going to say this organization is full of idiots and they're out to get you and they're dangerous and you better be careful. Well, guess what? Who's going to be left to join up? But people of questionable moral character, and police agencies go to great lengths to try to, with the background check and minimum standards. Now they're having to lower standards, just trying to get people to sign up to join a police force. So we need to start being honest again and paint the profession for what it is. When President Biden took office, there were approximately 1.4 million sworn officers in the United States, Letts said during a recent episode as a guest on The Bryce Eddy Show. Today, that number has plummeted to 700,000. And we're not just understaffed, we're facing a national security emergency, Letts explained to Eddy. The founder and CEO of Invest USA, a nonprofit organization that provides free bulletproof vests to officers. That's fantastic. Letts is working to bridge the gap between rising threats and dwindling support. His organization now focuses on distributing advanced active shooter vests equipped with titanium plates, essential protection against increasingly well-armed criminals, including drug cartels and traffickers. Yeah, a lot of times it depends, the size of the agency and what kind of vest they want to provide. Many officers buy or have to buy their own bulletproof vest. When officers are more afraid of lawsuits and media backlash than of the criminals they face, it's no wonder morale is at an all-time low, he has said. The challenges officers face today are unprecedented beyond physical danger. They are also experiencing the highest suicide rates in law enforcement history. Many are counting down the days to retirement or leaving the job altogether. Some forfeiting pensions just to escape the toxic environment. I could go on with that story, and I can attest to that just because of my own stepsons and what they're going through in the LA Sheriff's Department, the LAPD, specifically these California agents, where it's the worst place to be a cop in California. I mean, you got the most woke mindsets there, and so people just anti-police, willing to take action and agitation and violence against cops. And there's not much. And you got other agencies like in Florida, they're going to offer you a signing bonus. Come to a conservative city where they're going to back the police. And cops are leaving agencies in the West and going to the Southeast because of the support they get. I'm looking at my screen. I'm seeing a bug. It's in front of the camera. As I said, as you can tell, everybody, I'm at the cottage here in the Thousand Islands, New York. I'm on a private island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River right now, live broadcasting to the world. And that's what technology has done for us. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, everybody. I appreciate everybody that's chimed in tonight, and I appreciate the comments and the questions. It's been great interacting with you, specifically JJ Rose knows 777. Ed, Great interacting with you. Thanks for chiming in, my brother. And Dan, thank you. Leland, thank you. And so in the chat, we had people interacting with the show. That's what I like. It's a one-on-one relationship, me and you. Fantastic. And today we're talking about, I just can't wait to hear the stories tonight about Trump out on the streets on patrol. I know he's going to have a gat. He's going to have a gun and cuffs, and he's going to be taking people down. Maybe not. I was going to tell some ride-along stories because I never had, well, we had a sergeant in South Central at the Linwood Sheriff Station, Stanley White, and he was also an actor. And he had quite a big role in Midnight Run with Charles Grodin, and he plays himself. He's got tattoos on his arms, and they come in, they're looking for, Stan, we need a booking slip. And he's in the police force there. But he's been in a lot of movies. He was good friends with Oliver Stone. And so I remember several nights in Linwood when I would be there getting ready to go to work, you know, getting my police car ready. Stan White is the watch sergeant, and one of his buddies comes in. And so I got to meet Mickey Rourke. Actually got to go to a birthday party for Mickey Rourke in West Hollywood because Stanley White took me and another deputy with him. Joe Collins, I hope you're watching, Joe. And several times Charlie Sheen came out to ride along with Stanley. And I like Charlie Sheen. I'll tell you why. Well, he was so nice when he was there at the station. Very humble. Very respectful. Obviously supports the police. But about a year later, I'm at a restaurant in Beverly Hills. And I'm waiting to cross the street. And who comes up to the stoplight next to me? It's Charlie Sheen. I go, hey, Charlie, Mr. Sheen, you came out to Linwood Sheriff Station. I'm a LA County deputy. You rode with Stan White. Yeah, how are you? I remember you. He said, probably didn't, but he said, hey, how's Stanley doing? How you doing? You know, be safe out there. And we had a conversation. You know, some of these people are real people, and they're actually humble. They support the police. And so Charlie Sheen was one of those. And also Donny Osmond used to come out and ride with Stanley. So I got to meet Donny Osmond, and he was also amazingly humble and nice, obviously a police supporter. But they rode along with my sergeant at the time, Stanley White. And but I myself, I didn't have any famous ride-alongs. I did have a few people that were on a series. Sometimes people do background for a role they're going to play in a movie and or series, and they want to go on a ride-along. And so that's how we usually get our ride-alongs. Or they want to be police officers, or they're members of the community. They want to know what's going on. They want to know how it works. But thanks, everybody. This has been a great, fun live session on YouTube. And even if you're watching on the playback, please subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, because this is everywhere. We got Amazon Music, iTunes, we got Spotify. You can find the Cliff Yates Show anywhere out there. So listen in the car. And when you can, watch here on my YouTube channel, The Cliff Yates Show. And we were live tonight on YouTube. We had questions and comments. We're talking about Trump out on patrol. And so let's all go check it out and see how he made out. I want to know how many arrests he made tonight. All right, everybody, you know I love you. I'll see you at the next episode. I'm Cliff Yates.